I didn't know what to think when I found thousands of flies clinging to every surface. Hi guys, welcome back to the Quora Zone. Today we're reading from What's the creepiest thing that has ever happened to you, or creepiest thing you've ever seen. Our first post is from Sarah Wright. When I was younger, in middle school, I had a very best friend whom I stayed with quite frequently on the weekends. Her parents really were fond of me and treated me like one of their own. Several months had passed and nothing crazy happened. This was around the time Paranormal Activity, the movie, had been released. As we were watching the movie, my friend's younger sister had mentioned something, but was quickly hushed. I thought that it was weird. The next weekend, it's about 2 or 3 a.m., somewhere in there. Being two teenage girls and with her sister, we were just listening to music on the radio, jumping around the room like typical kids. All of a sudden, the radio stations began to turn, and it was so staticky. It was very weird. All I could do was stare at the radio. I wanted to change the station, and it cut off before I could even touch it. Both sisters saying, "Oh no, it's Stella." At this point, I'm not sure what the hell is going on. As soon as the radio cut off, the bedroom door flew open, and you could hear scuffling across the floor. I was in shock. I didn't speak a word of it until the next day, and they told me all about the paranormal activity that happens in the house. From then on, a lot happened, frequently while I was over, from seeing, hearing, or feeling things. I even personally would only ever get heart palpitations while I was at her house. Their house was most definitely haunted. This definitely sparked my interest in the paranormal world. Our next post is from Kevin Hurst. A few years ago, the temperature was going up. I decided to fire up my air conditioner. I did, and in a few minutes my living room was comfortable. I decided to go into the bedroom, the door of which had been closed. I didn't know what to think when I found thousands of flies clinging to every surface. I called my friends to come over and verify what I was seeing. I opened the door to the outside in hopes they would fly out. Then I got a dust devil and started vacuuming them off walls. Then I thought the ones on the ceiling I would wet down with a mist from a spray bottle of water. I eventually got them out after a few hours, and it never happened again. Our next post is from Samuel Sam Witt. When I was 4, me and my mum went to a friend of my half-dad, sister's dad. There was nothing wrong at first, it was just an elderly white dude and his wife. We ended up staying the night because of a snowstorm. I live in upstate New York. I got up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. The man's wife was in there. So as I was standing there waiting, the dude comes out of his room completely naked. I back away because who wouldn't? And then the weirdest part happens. He asked me to come in the room with him. What has to be going through a man's head to think a small child is going to scream and run when they hear that, along with a naked man in front of them? I grew up with my grandma, who doesn't sugarcoat shit, so I knew from a very young age not to listen to people like that. The scary part is that I could have trusted he wasn't going to do anything, but luckily, I have black people genes in me.
Damn it, please, Dad! Oh my God, run out! We're gonna die! It would have just been you if you would have just shut the fuck up! Someone's coming!
So that's not a problem. Another scary part is that this could and does happen to be any kid at any moment, which is why you don't leave your kid with people you don't know that well, or leave them unattended. And you can also take my advice and never leave your kids around my mum, Alicia Marie Rogers, lives in Buffalo, New York, or her pedo boyfriend, for what it's worth. Good to know. Our next post is from Erin Ganley. This happened years ago. It was late at night. I was bringing my clients home from a party they had gone to. My co-worker was driving. My clients were asleep in the back of our van. I was looking at the passenger side window out over a field in the sky. I saw a bright cigar-shaped object just hovering there. I watched it in silence for a moment and it disappeared. I didn't say anything to my co-worker for a good 5 minutes. I didn't want him to think I was crazy, but I had to know, so I asked him, "Did you see that?" He replied, "Yes." That was all we said to each other about it at the time. Over the next few weeks, I read the newspapers, called weather stations about weather balloons being launched. This was before the internet, and my co-worker did his own research. We found nothing. Our next post is from Bert Clayton. At 16 years old, after being outside listening to my radio, I go inside to go to bed. About 3 a.m. I go in my room, close the door, lay in my bed, then rolling over. There's this huge, terrifying looking creature I associated to a devil, demon, as it was so horrifying at the foot of my bed, in front of my doorway. I threw the cover over my head as if that would do anything. I peeked out, it was gone, so was I, as I shot into my sister's room and slept on the floor, which now I question, demon or angel? The Bible tells of angels that are horrifying appearances that terrified those they visited. That alone, with a validation of God at a young age, both have left me searching for years, decades even, trying to make out what to make of such. Then, having had experiences that were not of my doings, maybe it's a guardian spirit, or is it? I've never forgotten. The next post is from Karen Stufer No Longer Accepts Your Hate. I've seen and heard things that could possibly be happening. I've experienced a few things that defy explanation. Supernatural? Who knows? The creepiest thing, though, was an experience with a stalker. I used to be a hairstylist. At one point, I worked in a good-sized salon in a shopping mall. There were 9 stylists employed by the salon at the time. One Saturday afternoon, a young man came in wanting a haircut. I was next up in the walk-in rotation, so I invited him to have a seat in my chair. After consulting for a few minutes, I walked him back to the shampoo area. While I was shampooing his hair, he started making little throat noises, sighing and light moans. I asked if he was making noises of pleasure or discomfort. He said, "No, it feels good." I laughed a little and said that was good. So I walked him back to the chair and picked up my shears and a fresh comb. He's just sitting there with his eyes closed. That's unusual, I thought to myself. I start cutting his hair and notice his eyes are still closed. I asked him if he was going to fall asleep, as that happens. He said no, they just likes to relax while getting his hair cut. I said, okay, but if you fight to fall asleep and nod, I'll just gently adjust his head back to the position I need. He said, okay. Then towards the end of the haircut, he finally opened his eyes and we talked a little. I learned that he just started a new job in a restaurant at the mall. I said that I heard it was a good place to work, as I knew a few people who worked there. While he was paying, he apologized for not being able to offer more of a tip. I said that it was fine, we were paid fairly well for a tip profession. I wished him a great day, and that was it. On to the next client. Or, so I thought. Creepiness begins. A couple of days later, the guy comes back. He said he felt bad about not being able to give me a better tip, so he bought me something. I told him that he didn't have to do that, but thank you. He handed me a pack of cigarettes. Yes, I'm a smoker, trying to quit. I've just accepted it. In what I was hoped was a gracious matter, I was really feeling nervous. It was a brand that I've had to settle for when the store was out of my regular brand. It was a less well-known brand back then. The only way he could have known what I had been smoking was if he had watched me, then gone to see what I had put out in the smoking area near the employee entry. My co-worker thought it was strange, not really scary. I tried to brush off the feeling of creepy. I rarely frequented the interior of the mall. I worked there and I want to spend more time there than necessary, so I don't recall seeing him again for quite some time. But things started to happen. There were weed flowers left on the hood of my truck, also on the back bumper. Once there was a novelty pan of miniature handcuffs left attached to the back bumper of the truck. Very weird. Once I saw my dog apparently eating something near the back fence. I went out to see what it was, and it was a big handful of dog biscuits, the same kind I would buy. Not a well-known brand. My dog had a sensitive stomach. Okay, weird. Then came the day when I went out to the truck and saw a bouquet of flowers on the front seat of my locked truck. Too far. I called the police. I told them about all the things that had been happening. The stuff from the truck, the dog biscuits. I still had the miniature handcuffs, but I didn't know who had been doing it. Not yet. Then, of all things, the creep started driving past my house repeatedly. Then driving by wasn't good enough. He started honking his horn and screaming out the window, "I love you!" And emptying up the creep factor, he would scream, "I love you, Karen!" or I need you, Karen. Okay, enough. One of the neighbors had a habit of sitting on his front. One day he asked me why this guy was doing this. I told him I didn't know. I didn't even know who it was. He told me I'd seen the car the guy was driving. I could have hugged him. I asked if he'd be willing to talk to the police. He said sure. He gave them a description of the car and the guy driving it.
We do have his description. Can we take that? Let's take his description. Okay.
The description sounded familiar in a vague way. Then I saw a car matching the description at the mall. I just happened to see the driver get in the car. My heart dropped. After I pulled myself together, I went back inside and called the police officer who had been assigned to my case. I told him that I thought I might not know who it was. He came to the mall and we talked. He went to the restaurant and spoke with the manager. The guy will be coming back to work in half an hour. He waited. The restaurant manager came and talked to me. He said that the guy was a little off. It was basically harmless. I laughed and I asked him what the officer had told him. He said just about the living stuff in my truck. I told him about everything he was suspected of doing. Flowers, dog biscuits of an untypical brand, handcuffs, and breaking in my truck. The driver was screaming that disturbed myself, my husband, and the neighbors. He was a bit shocked. I said, yeah, harmless, huh? I'm going to just jump to the end now. The guy was put on probation to be served in a supervised halfway house. I was never informed of what all had been found in his apartment. The police and the district attorney decided that I didn't need to know. I think I'm glad to remain ignorant regarding some details, and yes, he lost his job. The only way I can think of for him to learn where I lived was for my professional license, framed and mounted on the wall at the salon where I worked. Yes, at the time, the state of Iowa had a rule that our home addresses was printed on the front of our licenses, and that our licenses had to be presented in a prominent place of the business of employment. I helped start a petition to the State Board of License to change that rule. By the time I moved away from Iowa, the petition had more than 18,000 signatures. I don't know if they ever changed the rule. All was asked for was for our home address to be printed on the back. Alright guys, that is all from the Quora Zone today. Hope you guys once again enjoyed these stories of the creepiest thing that has happened to you or that you have seen. Let me know if you guys have any similar stories, if you want to let me know in the comments, or you can put it in my email, which I can then post to the rest of my audience. So again guys, if you guys wanted to keep supporting me and keep getting these videos out pumping, make sure to like, subscribe, share, everything for more.